December 25th, 1870. Christmas Day in Paris. The most sophisticated city in the world is sitting down to dinner. But tonight's menu at one of the finest restaurants looks nothing like what you'd expect. The first course, stuffed donkey head. The main, roasted camel. And for those willing to pay extra, there's elephant trunk braised in red wine. This isn't some bizarre culinary experiment. This is desperation, dressed up as fine dining. Because outside the restaurant walls, Paris is surrounded by 200,000 Prussian soldiers. Every road is blocked, every railway is cut. No food comes in, no one gets out. The siege has been going on for over 3 months, and the city of 2 million people is slowly starving to death. So how did it come to this? How does the capital of haute cuisine, the city of light and culture, end up serving zoo animals to its wealthiest citizens? And more importantly, what were ordinary Parisians eating if the rich were dining on elephants? The answer is far worse than you can imagine. Let's rewind to September 1870. France and Prussia are at war, and it's going terribly for France. The French Emperor Napoleon III has just been captured. The French army has been crushed in battle after battle. Now the Prussian army, led by Otto von Bismarck, is marching straight toward Paris. The French government makes a catastrophic decision. Instead of evacuating or negotiating, they decide Paris will resist. They'll hold out until reinforcements arrive. How hard could it be? Paris has walls, forts, and cannons. They have 2 million people who can fight. Surely they can last a few weeks. On September 19th, the Prussians complete their encirclement. Every gate is sealed, every road is watched. Paris becomes the world's largest prison. And here's the problem no one fully grasped. Those 2 million people need to eat. They need roughly 4,000 tons of food per day just to survive. And Paris has maybe 2 months of supplies. The clock starts ticking, but Parisians don't panic yet. They're confident. They're patriotic. They believe rescue is coming any day. They have no idea they're about to experience one of history's most nightmarish sieges. Section 3. When normal food disappears. The first month isn't so bad. Sure, there's rationing, but people adapt. Fresh vegetables run out quickly. Milk becomes scarce. But there's still bread, still some meat, still hope. The government insists relief is imminent. Newspapers print optimistic reports of French armies gathering to break the siege. All lies. No one is coming. By late October, the situation shifts. Butcher shops that once displayed beef and pork now have empty hooks. The price of a chicken goes from 3 francs to 18 francs in a matter of weeks. Then chickens disappear entirely. Then rabbits. Then any conventional meat you can think of. The panic intensifies as people realize what's coming. Families with money start hoarding whatever they can find. They hide sacks of flour in attics, bury jars of preserved food in cellars, lock away anything edible. Neighbors spy on neighbors, reporting suspected hoarders to authorities. A black market explodes overnight. A single egg can cost 5 francs. A pound of butter, 30 francs if you can even find it. People sell family heirlooms just to buy a loaf of bread. The social contract breaks down. Friends betray friends over food. Landlords evict tenants suspected of hiding supplies. Trust evaporates. Everyone becomes a potential thief, a potential hoarder, a potential enemy. Here's where it gets interesting. Parisians start eating animals they never considered food before. Horses go first. Now, eating horse meat wasn't completely unheard of in France, but it was considered working-class food, almost shameful. Suddenly, horse becomes a delicacy. The rich pay premium prices for horse steaks. Then, there are no more horses. So what's next? Cats and dogs. By November, there's an organized trade in cat and dog meat. Street vendors sell it openly. Restaurants serve it without embarrassment. A cat costs anywhere from 10 to 20 francs. A dog can fetch 30. For context, that's more than a week's wages for many workers, and people pay it. Because the alternative is starving. Now we arrive at one of the most surreal moments in the siege. The Paris Zoo, the Jardin houses hundreds of exotic animals: lions, tigers, elephants, camels, kangaroos, zebras. For months, zookeepers have been struggling to feed them while Parisians go hungry outside the gates. The irony isn't lost on anyone. There are thousands of pounds of perfectly good meat walking around in cages while children are starving in the streets. Something has to give. In late November, the decision is made. The zoo will be liquidated. Not all of it, mind you. They keep the lions, tigers, and other big cats. Why? Because carnivore meat tastes terrible. It's tough, stringy, and has an unpleasant flavor. Also, there's something psychologically difficult about eating a predator, so the big cats get a temporary reprieve. But everything else? Fair game. The two elephants, Castor and Pollux, who've been beloved attractions for years, sold to a butcher for 27,000 francs. That's about 6 months' salary for a skilled worker. The butcher makes back his investment in days by selling elephant meat to high-end restaurants. Camel, zebra, antelope, kangaroo, all of it ends up on dinner plates. And here's the truly disturbing part. This becomes fashionable. Restaurants compete to offer the most exotic menu. They print elaborate cards advertising their zoo meat specials. The wealthy attend special dinners where the entire meal consists of former zoo animals. They treat it like an adventure, like they're explorers sampling foreign cuisine. Section 5. What the poor ate. But let's talk about what the other 95% of Paris is eating, because elephant steaks at fancy restaurants tell only one part of the story. For ordinary Parisians, the reality is far grimmer. By December, bread rations dropped to 300 grams per person per day. That's about 2 small slices. And it's not real bread anymore. Bakers are mixing sawdust, straw, and ground bone into the flour to stretch supplies. The result is a gray, dense substance that barely resembles bread. It causes digestive problems. It has almost no nutritional value, but it fills the stomach. Rat becomes a staple. Not a delicacy, not an exotic choice, a staple. Markets openly sell rats. The going rate is 1 franc for a large sewer rat. People develop recipes. Rat stew, roasted rat with herbs, rat pie. An entire industry springs up around rat hunting. Professional rat catchers, once considered the lowest profession, suddenly become wealthy. They know the sewers, know where the biggest rats hide. They charge premium prices. Children, desperate to help their starving families, venture into the dark tunnels beneath Paris with clubs and nets. It's dangerous work. The sewers are freezing, toxic, and unstable. Some children never come back. But a good day of rat hunting can feed a family for a week, so parents send their kids down anyway. Some describe the taste as similar to rabbit, others say it's gamey and unpleasant. But when your children are crying from hunger, you stop caring what it tastes like. Then there's what people won't talk about openly, but everyone knows is happening. Leather becomes food. People boil their shoes, their belts, their book bindings. They scrape the gelatin from the leather and make it into a jelly-like substance. It has minimal nutritional value, but it's something to chew, something to swallow. The truly desperate eat things that barely qualify as food. Tree bark, flower bulbs, wallpaper paste. There are reports of people scraping meat from animal bones that have been sitting in garbage heaps for weeks. Diseases spread rapidly: typhoid, dysentery, pneumonia. People don't just die from starvation. They die from eating things that slowly poison them. January 1871. The siege has been going on for over 4 months. The cold is brutal. Fuel for heating is gone. People burn furniture, books, anything that will combust. Families huddle together in freezing apartments, wrapped in every piece of clothing they own. But the physical suffering is only part of the nightmare. The psychological toll is devastating. Parents watch their children waste away. The infant mortality rate skyrockets. The elderly simply lie down and don't wake up. The death rate in Paris triples, then quadruples, and still, the Prussians don't attack. They don't have to. They just wait. They know time is on their side. Every day that passes weakens Paris a little more. It's a war of attrition, and Paris is losing. Here's what makes it even more cruel. The Prussians are well fed. Their supply lines work perfectly. Their soldiers eat meat, bread, and vegetables daily. They can literally see Paris from their positions. They watch the city slowly die while they sit comfortably in their camps. Parisians start to break. There are riots. Angry mobs attack government buildings demanding surrender. Others demand more aggressive action, wanting to launch suicidal attacks just to end things. The city fractures, rich versus poor, those who want to fight versus those who want to give up. The social fabric tears apart. Section 7. The Final Collapse. By late January, there's nothing left to eat. The zoo is empty. The cats and dogs are gone. The rats are becoming scarce. People are dying in their homes, and bodies lie in the streets for days before anyone collects them, because the living barely have the strength to care for themselves. The Prussians, sensing the end, begin bombardment. For 23 nights, shells rain down on Paris. It's psychological warfare. They're not trying to destroy the city. They're trying to break whatever will remains. And it works. On January 28th, after 131 days, Paris surrenders. The gates open. Prussian troops march in, and they're shocked by what they find. Paris, the most beautiful city in Europe, looks like a ghost town. Buildings are damaged. Streets are littered with debris. But worse is the condition of the people. They're skeletal, hollow-eyed. Moving like zombies through the ruins of their city, food convoys immediately pour in. But here's a tragic irony. Some Parisians die from eating too much too quickly after months of starvation. Their bodies can't handle the sudden influx of rich food. The very thing they've been dreaming about becomes lethal. Section 8. The Aftermath. No one talks about. So what's the final toll? Estimates suggest somewhere between 30,000 and 40,000 Parisians died during the siege, most from starvation and disease. That's roughly 2% of the city's population gone in 4 months. But the numbers don't capture the trauma. Survivors spent years dealing with what we'd now call PTSD. They had nightmares about eating rats. They hoarded food compulsively. They couldn't bring themselves to visit the zoo, even after it was restocked. An entire generation of Parisians grew up with vivid memories of watching their city eat itself from the inside out. And here's the kicker. The siege accomplished nothing. France lost the war anyway. All that suffering, all those deaths, for absolutely no strategic gain. Paris held out for over 4 months, and it changed nothing. The Prussians got everything they wanted. France paid massive reparations and lost territory. The siege of Paris became a symbol, not of noble resistance, but of the absolute horror of modern warfare, of what happens when pride and politics override common sense, of how quickly civilization's veneer cracks when people get hungry enough. The menu from that Christmas dinner in 1870, the one serving elephant and camel, still exists in archives. Museums display it as a curiosity. But it's not really a curiosity. It's a warning, a reminder that we're never as far from barbarism as we like to think. That starvation doesn't just take lives. It takes humanity. And that sometimes the most sophisticated city in the world can become a place where eating your zoo seems perfectly reasonable.